In this living theory section of my website, I've placed mainly doctoral theses, although there are some master's and Ed.D. dissertations which do demonstrate how individuals have generated their own living theories for those master's and those Ed.D. dissertations. But my focus on the doctoral theses is because I wanted to provide support for the view that individuals could generate their own valid living educational theories as they studied their own practice in questions of the kind, how do I improve what I'm doing? I spent most of my working life at the University of Bath between 1973 to 2009 supporting practitioners in generating their own doctoral theses, and from 1996 till 2009 there were over some 26 successfully completed doctoral theses, which I think place beyond reasonable doubt that you can actually generate a knowledge base from the living theories of practitioner researchers. Each of these theses has had to fulfil the traditional criteria that universities apply before the award of a doctorate. By this I mean that they've had to demonstrate that they are an original contribution to knowledge. And in this, their theses always do show originality of mind with critical judgment. They also contain matter worthy of publication, but which needn't be presented in the form ready for publication. The theses must also engage critically with the ideas of others at a level appropriate for a doctoral thesis. Now, each of those theses in this section have actually fulfilled these criteria. One of the reasons why I'm so pleased with this particular section is that it has emerged from my commitment since 1973, when I entered the University of Bath, to see if I could actually help to provide a knowledge base of the embodied knowledge of practitioner researchers that could actually demonstrate the award of doctoral theses for the embodied knowledge that they were expressing in their practice and which they actually made public through their research programme and the construction of their doctoral theses. The importance of this section is that it does show that individuals can generate accredited knowledge from questions of the kind, how do I improve what I'm doing? Each of the theses have gone through validation processes where the accounts have been subjected to the 4 criteria that Habermas recommends in his text on communication and the evolution of society. By this I mean that they've been strengthened in relation to their comprehensibility, the adequacy of the evidence which is presented to justify the assertions or the claims that are made. People have actually gone through validation exercises about their raising awareness of the cultural influences which have influenced their writing and understandings, and they've also been helped to live in a more authentic way over time and interaction in sustaining their commitment to live their values as fully as they can within the context of their workplace, as they ask and answer and research those questions, how do I improve what I'm doing? Now, when I talk about values, I'm thinking particularly of those values that flow with a life-affirming energy and which actually are helping people to make sense of the lives that they're living. I'm thinking of the ontological values which people use to give meaning and purpose to their lives. By bringing these values as practical principles and explanations of educational influence, I think that these doctoral theses have helped to transform what counts as educational knowledge within the academy. I think they've done that by focusing on the nature of the living standards of judgment. In traditional texts, before 2004, the doctoral theses would usually be presented in the form of text alone. At the University of Bath, there was a change in regulation in 2004 allowing multimedia accounts. What this enabled the researchers to do is to actually include visual data within their analyses, which could highlight the importance of the energy flowing values that they use to make sense of their lives and to give meaning and purpose to those lives. In claiming that the values themselves could form both explanatory principles to answer questions, well, why are you doing this? And people could answer, well, if these values are being negated, because they are the values I use to give meaning and purpose to my life, I actually try to overcome this negation in what I am doing. The values also form these ideas of living standards of judgment, which in relation to a theory of knowledge are very significant epistemologically, because these are the standards that are used to evaluate the validity of a contribution to knowledge. And these values, these living values which are forming the standards of judgment, are, I think, fundamental in reconstructing what actually counts as educational knowledge. Now, I do hope that you find some of these doctoral theses useful in the construction of your own living theory, and actually they help you to gain confidence that your individual inquiries of the kind, how do I improve what I'm doing, within which, for example, you are acting within a social context. So it's not as if your individual I is somehow completely autonomous and independent from the social context and the social relationships in which you're living and working. So your I is very much interrelated with the eyes of others, and also the social context, the environmental context, and also, I would say, the cosmological context in which we are actually living and working. So I do hope you enjoy these and that you find them useful.